This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. Wednesday, everybody. A lot of great NBA games last night. We got a couple good ones tonight. Let's get to it. Colin and Jason share their thoughts on the news that former Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez was found dead this morning in his prison cell. Whitlock questions if some of the other Patriot players would have known that Tom Brady would not attend the White House today, would they have gone themselves? Cowherd says that Russell Westbrook reminds him of Allen Iverson, a great player that's not easy to play with. Chris Broussard calls out the Celtics as the worst #1 seed in NBA history. Plus, college football expert Joel Klatt joins the discussion, and we agree, Christian McCaffrey is a much better prospect than Leonard Fournette. Ready for Speak For Yourself? Cowherd and Whitlock, take it away.
All right, welcome to the show. We'll tell you why the Warriors might not actually want Kevin Durant to play tonight.
And why Russell Westbrook is about to be abandoned by his best friend. Speak For Yourself starts right now.
You're leaving him?
I cannot wait for that game.
Are you leaving him?
I am abandoning him.
All right, welcome to the show. We're joined today by Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb and Colin's co-host on The Herd, Christine Leahy. All right, let's start with the disturbing news out of Massachusetts. Former Patriot tight end Aaron Hernandez committed suicide in his prison cell where he was serving a life sentence without possibility of parole for murder of Odin Lloyd. Colin, what's your reaction?
Well, he lived an incredibly harsh life, and it had a very harsh ending. There are a lot of people who grow up in tough environments and don't get opportunities. He had lots of opportunities. I'm not overly religious, but if there's a man upstairs, he gave him Tebow, he gave him Brady, he gave him Belichick, he gave him Urban Meyer, he gave him great leaders, great cultures, and he continued to make choices that veered often toward violence. So, I just think opportunities, financial opportunities, football opportunities, life choices, he made poor ones. And when you do live this harsh life, which he would acknowledge was the life he chose, this is often the ending.
I was shocked this morning how sad I was to read this news. I was kind of shaken up and sad. And I was like, wow, where is this coming from? And then as I thought it through, and I was reading people's reaction over social media to him, and I saw a lot of people calling him a coward, or this was a cowardly act. And I think he was involved in a lot of reprehensible, cowardly acts, but I'm not sure if this fits that description. I think if you know people that have been incarcerated, if you had family incarcerated, your family and the people that love you do every day of that time that you do. They are incarcerated as well. And so I look at this act, and again, I'm not justifying it, but I think he may have been trying to provide relief for his fiance and his daughter. This act is, just cold bottom line. I think it helps protect his money. It's very expensive to fight murder charges. I think it helps him with the civil lawsuit. He may have done this to spare his daughter and his fiance more pain.
You said how you felt. I'll tell you what I felt. Nothing. I just felt nothing. I mean, it's called Speak For Yourself. I'll speak for myself. I feel absolutely nothing for somebody who murdered somebody else in cold blood. Good riddance. And to your point, he probably did do his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-fiance, and baby a favor, because there's not the financial burden. There's not the burden of daddy's in jail. What's he in jail for? And, there'll be some sort of martyrdom, like his lawyer saying he might not have killed himself. Somebody might have murdered him. But in the reality, he lured in Odin Lloyd, who thought he was his friend, murdered him in cold blood, then celebrated, and we all saw it on tape. And he didn't get away with it. He did possibly get away with murdering 2 other people in cold blood. I feel nothing for the fact that he's no longer of this earth.
I covered Aaron Hernandez for 2 years with the Patriots, and I remember one of my assignments leading up to the Super Bowl when the Patriots played the Giants was to do a deep dive into Aaron Hernandez, his family, his coaches from when he was little, and the story was about how he had turned his life around because, you said that this was the life that he chose, and I think when he was young, his surroundings didn't give him much of an option. And as he went to college and went to the Patriots, I think there was a period where he was turned around, and his coaches and family, his brother just was such a stand-up guy. And I remember thinking that he had turned around too, and it turns out that first murder was only 6 months after the Super Bowl. So it was so quickly after that. And I remember talking to a few of his teammates and asking, if they were surprised and they said, well, you would never expect your teammate to murder someone, but we're not really surprised. So really, I think it was just it is a tragic story because so many people had to die. I think he grew up in a really bad environment. I'm not excusing what he did by any means. He was involved in a lot of drugs, and I think it's just sad that so many people, including him, had to die.
Listen, we've all had probably, well, I won't say this. I've had somebody die in my family, multiple people, right? If the family tree goes out. And you feel differently for different people based on your association, based what they had done to support the family. You know, when you ask the question, how do I feel about Aaron Hernandez? I didn't know him. I just knew his actions, and he took people's lives. So similar to Doug, my initial feeling this morning, there are people that we've worked with in the last 2 years that have passed, and you're sick to your stomach. But I was kind of numb. I mean, I had read so much about Aaron Hernandez, and this wasn't self-defense. This was in cold blood. He had done things to people. And I found myself a little closer to Doug where I was numb to it. This wasn't a person who had gone back and attacked or killed somebody who had taunted his family or abused him. That's where I struggle. This was a murderer.
I guess, and I think you guys' reaction completely understandable. I want to be clear on mine. Anytime a human being throws their life away,
yeah,
I'm an emotional person. This guy threw his life away.
Yeah.
He's got a 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
He has a woman who loves him, who stood by him. I feel for those people. And I feel bad that he could have been so stupid and or depraved that he would make the choices that he did. And I feel sorry for a lot of athletes and young people. We have so celebrated the gangster culture.
I thought
that it blows me away that the guy had the dream life, the
and
life
chose
that
culture.
And chose that because we've so celebrated
His huge deal
well,
when he decided to do those murders.
Jason, I grew up listening to gangster rap, obviously not in the environment that he grew up into. But, I mean, that's the culture of sports, especially in the 90s, right? And it not only glorifies guns, it glorifies gangster activities, glorifies smoking weed and other stuff. And I actually think there can be some good taken out of this story in that you want to be a gangster, this is what happens to gangsters. You want to glorify shooting people, this is what happens. And though I fully, look, I'm a father, plus I'm a human being. He has a 4-year-old daughter. That changes when you take at least one other person's life.
There was 3 murders that he was allegedly...
And maybe something down in Florida when he was in college.
Exactly, shot someone in the face. But the Patriots knew about everything that had happened down in Florida, and they knew about his gang connections, and they still brought him onto the team. And I'm not saying that a guy who does those sorts of things cannot redeem himself and earn a chance to play in the NFL again, but I think you're right. As long as we're glorifying this gangster life and letting these guys get big NFL contracts without really redeeming themselves and figuring out how they can correct their ways, it's going to continue.
To the Patriots, who visited the White House today to be honored for their Super Bowl victory over the Falcons, but were without the man who led them, Tom Brady. Reportedly, Brady is spending time with his mom, who's in ill health. Brady addressed his absence in a statement today, saying, quote, "In light of some recent developments, I am unable to attend today's ceremony, as I am attending some personal family matters. Hopefully, if we accomplish the goal of winning a championship in the future, we will be back on the South Lawn again soon." Jason, what's your reaction to Tom Brady missing the White House visit?
I gotta take him at his word that there's some personal issue here. His mom has been ill. I think they've put out an Instagram. It's their parents' anniversary or whatever. But again, they knew the anniversary long before today. This, to me, just feels a touch like Giselle made the final call. And she has a right to, again, that's what marriage and relationships are. Both parties have to be happy. And it sounds like, to me, she put her foot down.
I tend to agree there, don't you?
She was posting some things today, too, that made me think that.
Well, I mean, let me just defend all athletes. It used to be that you could attend or not attend the White House, and it wasn't a political statement. It now is. Like, the world's changed. It is the off season. He has a net worth of $500 million. It's an event. He travels. He's a workaholic. He doesn't have as many weeks as you think. You know, these guys are busy.
This is in the last second. He could have called this time out.
One day.
But remember, Michael Jordan missed this. We've had all-time
He could have
greats.
announced it a month ago, though.
Well, that's not his job to announce it.
Did Michael Jordan have a Make America Great hat in his locker? Make America Great Again hat in his locker.
Well, Michael was political. I mean, we knew Michael...
No, he was apolitical.
Well, he was apolitical to us, but he was more political behind the scenes. He was more conservative.
Perhaps.
I mean, I just think, why do I have... Like, if I didn't think Jimmy Carter was a great president, but if I went to the White House, I wouldn't be saying I love his interest rates and his policies. Like, if you don't go today, it's a political statement.
Well,
what if you're busy?
Here's what I think. He did not go to the White House when Barack Obama was president. So if he did go today, he would catch a lot of criticism. Well, why didn't you go to Barack Obama's? But now you're going to Donald Trump's. And maybe he just honestly didn't want to deal with it. He also has a sick mother, so it kind of made it easier to make that decision to not go, because he also does want to stay with his mom.
No, listen, I hear all of that, okay? But he did kind of normalize the Trump campaign before it had been normalized, before it became mainstream.
Disagree with that, but you have a right to that opinion.
Well, look, he had it in his locker and then he kind of avoided it, whatever.
It's a hat.
He put out there was some form of support there for the Trump campaign when no one of his ilk was willing to support it.
People thought it was a joke initially.
Maybe it was a joke, but all he could have said was, hey, it's a joke.
No, I'm talking about the Trump campaign was a joke.
Yes.
So he could have had the hat like, oh, this is never going to happen. This is funny.
But then why didn't he say that?
Because he likes to avoid that controversy. It's not the Patriot way.
And Tom's also right now a corporation.
Yeah.
Now, what happened? He's one of these 6 athletes in America. There's probably more, but like Tom, LeBron, Steph, they're corporations. Corporations don't like controversy. Supporting Trump's controversial. I think he may, that's part of it maybe.
I think we all are kind of circling around on the truth. There's Giselle probably is like, not doing that. His mom is, in fact, sick. It is their anniversary. And he's a corporation. This is bad for business. But let's be honest. It's also a little bit soft here. Like, look, if you're a Trump guy, be a Trump guy. He is the president.
Well, he can probably also call him at any time and go visit the White House and Donald Trump when he wants to. So he doesn't have to do it on this exact day that would cause him a lot of controversy.
Did you notice in his statement that he put the president, but he didn't pay President Trump? And did you notice that President Trump did not mention Tom Brady there? So maybe they're not besties anymore. I don't know. I just think it's interesting to me that all you got to do is take the shots, get the photos. You've earned it. You're the leader of the franchise. You're the leader of the players, and you're not there.
That's the point that I think may have a little ramifications. There's a bunch of players that went, particularly African-American players, that are taking some heat, and Brady stayed home and avoided all the heat at the last minute. I guarantee there are probably some teammates that if Brady had said a month ago, hey, I'm not going, maybe a lot more wouldn't have gone. Maybe the whole team wouldn't have gone. Brady pulls the rug at the last minute, does what's best for Brady, but perhaps this is the first time where it's not best for the entire team. They'll probably let him slide here. But, again, I'll say this. I'm not a big proponent of marriage, but this is like a good look for marriage. Giselle made him look real smart here.
Women often do make men look smart.
All right, welcome back. Good stuff. Doug Gottlieb is still here. We're joined by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's move to the National Basketball Association, where the Bulls, shocked me, took a 2-0 series lead over the top-seeded Celtics last night. Boston has been dealing with the death of Isaiah Thomas's sister, and the team looked somewhat demoralized last night, which had Avery Bradley frustrated after the loss.
Looked around, and a few times in the game, guys were putting their heads down. And, I think getting down on ourselves, but as a team, we have to stay together. The other team is looking at that. They're using that as motivation for themselves. And I could even hear Rondo like, yeah, they gave up. They gave up. But we never can let a team see that. We have to continue to be positive and go out there and play hard no matter what the outcome is.
All right, Jace, you surprised by the Celtics in an 0-2 hole?
Look, I don't want to sound flippant, but the last thing an athlete, a team, a coach wants his team to have is perspective before playing a game. And so death puts life in perspective. Tragedies put life in perspective. And when you're going out trying to compete, and this is the most important thing in the world, and we're in the playoffs, and it's go time, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with, you know what, this really ain't that important. And this man over here has lost his sister, and I sure think about your family and what's really important. I don't blame Boston for being emotionally down. Again, delusion a lot of times is an athlete's greatest weapon.
Well, I mean, I know it's a 1 versus an 8, but could I argue Boston's one of the weakest ones ever, the number 2 seed rested Stars, and that in their division they were 11-5. That if they were in a tougher division, maybe they're a 3 seed, and this is a 3-7, not a 1-8. I mean, maybe, you know, I'm surprised. And I think maybe there is some emotional component here. But when I watch it, you know, my takeaway is I should have known. Veterans own this NBA space. Regular season, young guys can shine. Rondo, Wade, like this is what veterans do in April.
Look, they're the worst number 1 seed in NBA history.
Really?
Period. No question. You look at there's like 6 teams that have had a worse record than them and been the top seed. Rick Barry, but he took that Golden State team to the NBA championship in 1975. Jason Kidd, when they got to the finals, Detroit team with Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups. That's a better team than
Oh,
this.
yeah.
So this is the worst number 1 seed in history. It's not a real number 1 because we know Cleveland, if they wanted it, if they cared, they would have been the number 1 seed. Beyond that, it's a perfect regular season team because they play hard every night.
They do.
Brad Stevens gets it out of them every night, and they kind of play at a playoff level 82 games. And then in the playoffs, they don't have that another level to go to, whereas everybody else does. And, you know, in the playoffs, it's about talent. Because when I can study you for 2 weeks and I know what everybody's doing, I know what play calls are, now it's just, can I stop you or can you beat
My
me?
guys against your guys.
Exactly. And Butler, Wade, and Rondo can beat these guys one-on-one. Boston's got one player that can do it, and he's 5'9". That's the problem.
I mean, you nailed it in so many different ways. It's a little bit like Kansas in college basketball. They keep winning the Big 12. Why can't they win the national championship? Because Bill Self gets more out of them in the regular season, and then they lack some of the upper echelon talent when they get to the NCAA tournament, and it's also a one-and-done format. There's a mismatch problem there. Rondo has been a problem because of his length, because of his maturity, because of his experience. I mean, he's kicked their ass. I mean, he's just been and it only shows how much of a dog he was when he was in Dallas and he quit on his team.
Right.
But he's a dog because we know he has this in him.
Right.
I don't think any of us thought that Paul Zipster was going to have 16 points. Right?
Who is he?
Yeah. And Bobby Portis, of course, everybody's like, oh, I knew Bobby Portis was great after he has a... So some of it is that I think Fred Hoiberg's done a great job of exposing mismatches at the point guard spot. They've exposed Al Horford as being kind of an average player. Yeah. But I think the best part you made was, regular season, postseason are different. Remember the Hawks 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago, right?
60 wins.
60 games. But then we saw them in the playoffs. I mean, look at these numbers, guys. I mean, they were swept by the Cavs, but, I mean, it wasn't even competitive. So, look, what it takes to be successful in the regular season is one thing. What it takes to be successful in the postseason is another thing. And then you combine with the fact that we have teams that are dumping games. We have teams that are resting players.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics had their foot on the gas the entire time. And much like the end of a NASCAR race, now all of a sudden they're running out of gas and everybody else is boat racing.
Look, remember Tom Thibodeau had this problem in Chicago.
Yeah.
Same, when he was the coach of the Bulls, they looked great in the regular season, and then they'd sputter.
2 of the most physical guards of my lifetime. Let's just go last 10 years, Rondo and Wade. I mean, they're physical players. I mean, I remember a few years ago.
There's another one.
Yes, and so, I remember last year in the finals, what's happened to Steph? What's happened is the refs are like, fellas, go play. Playoff basketball, everybody watches. The ratings go up. The refs don't want to be part of the story.
There's no fouls. You're correct. It is incredibly physical.
It is really physical. Wade probably plays bigger than any guard of my life. Rondo is rough. Butler's a real athlete. So I think some of this is, I'm watching, I'm like, men, young guys, I'll take the men.
Yep.
You know what? One more thing. You mentioned Wade. He's Derek Jeter to me. He's more clutch than he is good. Like, is he one of the 5 greatest players? No, but in a big spot.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to come through.
Deliver.
And he's had maybe more opportunities than other people, much like Jeter. But that's why I think the parallel is there.
All right, to Houston, where Russell Westbrook and the Thunder look to rebound tonight after a horrible Game 1 loss to the Rockets. Before that game, Russell Westbrook downplayed his friendship with James Harden, saying the basketball is his only friend on the court, and Westbrook doubled down on that statement yesterday.
Yeah, I think y'all misunderstood what I'm saying. I think y'all think like, oh, you only have one friend. The basketball is only my only friend. Like, all these guys are my brothers. My teammates are my brothers. You know, James is a friend of mine. There's other friends that I have in the league. But at the same time, when I get on the floor, this is the most important thing for me, and this is how, you know, I was able to do what I needed to do. So it's actually not a joke. It's actually real. So just to make that known.
Colin, you like the mindset?
No. Even when he doubles down, he goes back to, yeah, I was just saying what I was saying. My best friend's the basketball. Yeah, listen, I picked on him enough. He's a great player, okay? We all get that. But there are people that have certain mindsets. Everybody, like when Kobe came into the league, he was like Michael Jordan light. There are very few players. Magic was rare. We'd never seen Magic. Wilt was rare. We'd never seen him. But a lot of players, you're like, oh, he's that guy. Brady has a little Montana, the footwork, lack of arm, real accurate. When I see Westbrook, I see Iverson. That I think he's the most dynamic player I have seen. He's the best athlete in the league. But I don't think he's easy to play for or play with. And listen, when Kevin Durant left, he didn't leave to a team where he'd get all the shots. He left to a team with 2 high-volume shooters and 3 stars.
If I were Billy Donovan, I would sit Westbrook down at some point and be like, you know, hey, I love the fact that you think the basketball is your best friend. I really do. Then value it. Value every possession you have with it. Make love to every possession you have with the basketball instead. Because when I watch him play a lot of times, he doesn't it's his best friend, but he mistreats his best friend. He'll throw it anywhere. He'll let him hang out with anybody.
Wait, I thought they say if you love something, if you love something, let it go. Yeah? I thought if you love something, let it go, Jay. Look, I made the comparison before. His idol growing up was Kobe, and he wants to be Kobe. There's also Jordan was kind of like this, too.
Yes.
Very demanding in practice of his coaches, of his teammates. Many times he would get into a verbal confrontation with the front office of the Chicago Bulls. He's not for everybody. But for the guys who like him, they don't like him, they love him. And here's what I actually like about it. I like that he doubled down on it. I hate when somebody says something and people make fun of it, and then they're like, well, I didn't really mean that. I was just playing, right? Because you know, you get a little heat on Twitter, you get a little heat on shows like this, and people back away. I like the fact that he's not soft, and he's like, you know what? I said it. Let me give you some context, but I meant it. End of the day, that's my mentality.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with what he said, and we all understand what he meant. Yeah, we're friends, but as soon as we step on the court, I'm going at you. The ball is all that matters. Winning is all that matters. And you made the Iverson comparison, which is appropriate on some level. This is the difference. Westbrook, as much as he dominates the basketball and takes bad shots at times and doesn't understand time and pace and all that stuff, he has shown he can play with another superstar. Iverson had trouble anytime. Now, Glenn Robinson wasn't a superstar, but he was a good offensive player. Jerry Stackhouse, they couldn't coexist. When he played with Melo in Denver, they both got their points, but they went out in the first round. Westbrook, let's not act like he hasn't had some team success. Right. He's been to the finals once, been to the conference finals 4 times, and after they went to the finals in 2012, you look at the next 4 years, only one time were they healthy. So the one time he was healthy with Durant, Ibaka, and all their players, they went 3-1 on Golden State.
But when he said that about the ball, you didn't have a second, you were like, oh, that's not great.
No, I mean, I got what he was saying because I didn't take it like he's just being a ball hog. I took it like, look, when I step on the court, man, I don't know you. Yeah. All right, you might be my best friend, but I don't know you.
Which is kind of the old school mentality. We hear a lot of the old school guys going like, "Hey, we used to be friends," but then we would remember Magic and
the
Magic
players love Westbrook. The old players, everybody loves his
come on. Players love him.
Yeah.
KD loved him, but chose his rival.
They respect him maybe more than like him.
Let's see what happens after KD.
I like that. That's right. They respect him.
That's good.
I don't think they love him.
Here's the difference between him and Iverson. Okay, Iverson wouldn't practice. This guy practices incredibly hard.
Yes.
Iverson wouldn't take care of his body off the floor. Wouldn't take care of his body, would fly off to Atlantic City. Like this guy, he is all about ball. He is, yes, he wears the funky clothes, but he is a baller. He lives in the gym, he lives in the weight room, he takes care of his body. He is if he's the same guy as Iverson, I'm seeing 2 different people. He's the best possible version of what Iverson could
I can admire somebody. That guy's great at his craft. Doesn't mean I want to work with him or play with him. I think a lot of people look at the passion of Westbrook and they're like, jaw-dropping. I don't think they want to necessarily, as a wing, play with him. I think if you took a poll of stars in this league, Westbrook, Harden, who would you play with? Harden in a landslide.
Yeah, but Harden won't compete at the defensive end. Like that would frustrate the hell out of me if I'm like, he's controlling the ball. That's great. I get my shots. But there's a good group of NBA stars who are like, look, dude, you got to stop your guy. We can't keep hiding you defensively. That's why some of these stars don't buy into Steph Curry.
No, that's
it's not because it's because Steph Curry can't guard anybody, and he just floats over there trying to get steals.
There will be some guys in the NBA that's like, look, I can play with Westbrook. I can get the best out of him.
Yeah.
I'll hang with him. I'll massage his game, and he won't even know it happens. A veteran guy, a Dwayne Wade or someone like that, might feel like they could move Westbrook a more positive direction.
There's always a guy that thinks they can save people. There's always that
Captain
guy.
Saver Whitlock, that's my name.
All right, welcome back. Joel Klatt's here, joined now by the founder of thebiglead.com. I always had that .com thing.
Thank you.
Love the bandwidth there. Jason McIntyre, let's move to college football, where, according to odds makers, Leonard Fournette is now the heavy favorite to be the first running back taken in next week's draft. Meanwhile, another top prospect, Christian McCaffrey, seems pretty comfortable with his draft position, declining requests from teams for private workouts. All right, Whitlock, who's a better prospect, Fournette or McCaffrey?
Look, man, I'm not going to reject 70 years of football history. One guy is like 6'1", 240 pounds, and runs a 4.5 40, and the other guy's a little undersized, fast and shifty. But, you know, one guy fits all the statistical profiles, the other guy doesn't. I got to go with Fournette.
3 words, does more things, McCaffrey.
You know what's interesting to me is
he does more things, punt, kick, slot, back.
Yeah, and does them really well. I
like working with guys. You write, you do radio, you do television, you wear hats. I like guys who do more things.
Okay, so here's what's very interesting about what I had no idea where you were going to go with your argument. Is you just outlined exactly the position that I think is archaic, which is we have 70 years of history that this is the way that it always has been, and well, you can't tell me that someone other than who I'm used to seeing can be successful at this position. Do you remember a guy named Billy Beane?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Executive with the Oakland Athletics. Do you remember when his philosophy of Moneyball became prominent? People in the big leagues thought, that can't be successful. We have 70 years, Jason, of statistics and eye tests that tell us that this is what is successful on the big league field. I don't want to be
first. I want to be right.
And guess what? Those 2 theories, Moneyball theories, stopped the greatest 2 streaks in the history of baseball, which is the Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs World Series droughts. So there's something... There is just an alternate way to view running backs. There's the traditional way, which you laid out, which is the 6'1", 240, can carry it 20 times. And there's this alternate way, which is born out of economic frugality. Because when you pay your quarterback $20 million a year, guess what you've got to find? Alternate ways to get value and production in your skilled positions. And for that reason, Christian McCaffrey holds more value to an NFL organization with the way that the NFL plays football in the modern day than does Leonard Fournette. Because the last time that a rushing leader ended up going on to win the Super Bowl, it was 1998, and Terrell Davis and the Denver Broncos were raising John Elway's second Super Bowl Vince Lombardi trophy. That hasn't happened since then. So you tell me when this prototypical running back is going to take a team to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, I just saw James White with a great quarterback go torch the Falcons in the 4th quarter and raise that Vince Lombardi trophy. That's why Christian McCaffrey has more value than Leonard Fournette.
The James White reference is amazing, but I'm going to take it a step further. On my radio show, I compared Christian McCaffrey to Shady McCoy. So people start calling in, freaking out. If you measure them up from the combine when Shady McCoy was there and McCaffrey, they're almost identical, about 5'10", 200. And McCaffrey can kill you out of the backfield. He was great on punt returns, as you know, in the Pac-12. I'm telling you, McCaffrey, I think, could be in play as high as 6 with the New York Jets. They need a face for that franchise. You got a white running back who's dynamic. The crowd loves him. Great in space.
You know, what's also interesting is baseball, you know, it looks sort of the same today as 100 years ago, and basketball largely does, with the exception of more threes. Football is the sport, even through our television sets, that doesn't even look the same. The 10-yard marker, the no huddle. Yep. Listen, what Joel is basically saying is one of the reasons we love football, it just keeps changing and changing and changing. It's faster, no huddles, more plays. Running back's changing. And McCaffrey is, to me, the new running back. Listen, Danny Woodhead, but 12 years ago, we're all like, Danny, and for a minute, not nearly as talented as McCaffrey, changed the way. Darren Sproles Like, remember, like when Darren
Kansas
Sproles,
State guy,
he
right?
wasn't
I
a
know Darren
classic
Sproles.
guy. Like, I see McCaffrey as a more talented Darren Sproles, and I love Darren Sproles.
Just because Kevin
want Zeke
Youkilis
Elliott.
held value in baseball doesn't mean that Barry Bonds didn't.
I want
Fournette
Zeke
holds
Elliott.
value, but McCaffrey, he's a good player.
I'm going to win a Super Bowl. These guys will be talking about winning.
This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Subscribe to all of them. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm on the In the Zone podcast with Chris Broussard, chopping up a little LeBron, a little Paul George, and those disappointing Boston Celtics. Talk to you tomorrow.